Evelyn's fingers trembled as she stared at the photographs scattered across her kitchen table. Each image was more damning than the last, her husband with different women. Envelopes of cash changing hands, signatures on documents she'd never seen before. The private investigator had delivered them just hours ago, along with a warning. Be careful who you trust, Mrs. Caldwell. Your husband isn't the man you think he is. The sound of his key turning in the lock made her blood freeze. She scrambled to gather the photos, shoving them into the manila envelope, but one slipped to the floor. His footsteps echoed down the hallway, getting closer. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she bent to retrieve the fallen photograph, him shaking hands with a Fange, shaking hands with a Fangines, as she bent to retrieve the fallen photograph, him shaking hands with a fallen photograph, him shaking hands with a Pedro, man she recognized from the news, a man wanted for money laundering. Evelyn, you home? His voice carried the same warmth it always did, the same gentle tone that had fooled her for 3 years of marriage. In the kitchen, she managed to call back, her voice barely steady. She clutched the envelope to her chest, mind racing. How long had he been living this double life? How many lies had she believed? He appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie, that familiar smile spreading across his face. The same smile that used to make her feel safe. Now it looked predatory. You look pale, sweetheart. Everything all right? Evelyn forced herself to breathe, to act normal. But her eyes betrayed her, darting to where the envelope lay hidden behind her purse. He noticed. His expression shifted, the warmth draining from his features like water through a sieve. What's that you're hiding? His voice was different, now harder, colder. Nothing, she whispered, but they both knew it was a lie. He moved closer, and she saw something in his eyes she'd never noticed before, something dark and calculating. Evelyn, show me what's in your hands. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in. She had always been the trusting wife, the one who believed every excuse, every late night at the office. But the photographs had shattered that naive version of herself. She wasn't powerless anymore. I know what you've been doing, she said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. His face went completely still. What did you say? The money, the meetings, the women. Her voice grew stronger with each word. I know everything, Marcus. For a moment, neither of them moved. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. And in that silence, Evelyn saw her husband's mask slip completely away. You stupid, stupid woman, he said softly, shaking his head. You have no idea what you've stumbled into. Fear shot through her, but she stood her ground. I have copies. If anything happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. His voice was almost gentle again, but his eyes remained cold. You're going to give me those photographs, and we're going to pretend this conversation never happened. No, the word escaped before she could stop it. Something flickered across his face, surprise, then anger, then something far more dangerous. Evelyn, you don't understand the kind of people I work with. They don't leave loose ends. Are you threatening me? Her voice shook. But she didn't back down. He reached into his jacket, and her world tilted. For 3 years, she had shared a bed with this man, cooked his meals, trusted him with her life. Now she realized she had never known him at all. "Give me the envelope, Evelyn." Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from her sister Amanda. "Are you okay? You sounded strange earlier." Marcus glanced at the phone, then back at her. "No one's coming to save you. It's just you and me." But Evelyn had spent too many years being afraid, too many nights wondering if she was strong enough to survive on her own. The photographs had given her something she'd never had before, proof that her instincts were right, proof that she wasn't crazy. "The police already have copies," she lied. His laugh was sharp, mirthless. "No, they don't. You're not that smart. Try me." For the first time in their marriage, she saw uncertainty in his eyes. He was calculating, weighing his options. And in that moment of hesitation, Evelyn realized something that would change everything. She wasn't the same woman who had walked into this kitchen an hour ago. The photographs had awakened something in her, something that refused to be silenced. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," Marcus said quietly. Evelyn met his gaze, no longer the trembling wife he expected. "Neither do you." The silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of shattered illusions and dangerous truths. Outside, a car door slammed. Someone was coming. Marcus heard it too. His jaw tightened. "This isn't over, Evelyn." "Yes," she whispered, clutching the envelope that contained the ruins of her old life and the birth of her new one. "It is." The doorbell rang, sharp and sudden in the tense air. Everything was about to change. Clara had always believed that people showed their truest selves in silence. Words could deceive, but silence revealed everything: the hesitation, the anger, the secrets someone didn't dare speak. Tonight, as she sat in her car outside the dimly lit office building, the silence around her screamed louder than words ever could. Her stomach churned with dread. She knew she shouldn't be here. She should have gone home, poured a glass of wine, and let the exhaustion of another long day drown her in sleep. But something had gnawed at her all week, a strange pattern in the client files she'd been auditing. At first, she thought she was imagining it, but the numbers were too precise, too deliberate. Money was vanishing, small amounts hidden under larger transactions, shifting between accounts no one was supposed to touch. Someone in her company was laundering money, and the closer she looked, the clearer it became. And she had proof. Her laptop bag lay on the passenger seat, heavy with everything she had copied from the firm's servers. She hadn't told anyone, not even her closest friend at work. But tonight, as the unease grew unbearable, Clara had made the reckless choice to drive back here, to confront the truth face to face. She wanted to see if anyone else was working this late, if the shadows in her mind matched reality. Clara's fingers drummed nervously on the steering wheel. The parking lot was nearly empty, just 2 cars parked side by side, one of them her boss's. That made no sense. He was never here past 7. Her chest tightened. She swallowed hard and forced herself to get out of the car. The night air was damp, the kind that clung to skin like an omen. The glass doors to the building reflected her pale face as she swiped her badge. The lock clicked. Her footsteps echoed in the deserted lobby. Each step deeper into the building sent her pulse racing faster. The office was dark except for the faint glow spilling from the conference room at the end of the hall. Clara hesitated. She should leave. She should take her evidence straight to the authorities and vanish from this nightmare. But curiosity had always been her flaw. She couldn't walk away without seeing who was inside. Moving quietly, she edged closer. Voices drifted down the hallway low, urgent, and unmistakably angry. She pressed her back against the wall and strained to listen. "Told you she's been digging too deep," a man's voice said. Her blood turned cold. "They were talking about her." "She won't find anything we can't erase," another voice snapped, colder, sharper. "Her boss." Clara's hands trembled as the realization struck her. They knew. Somehow, they knew she was onto them. The files she'd stolen weren't as secret as she thought. She backed away slowly, desperate not to make a sound. But the heel of her shoe clicked against the tile. The voices stopped. Panic seized her chest. She turned and fled down the hall, her breath ragged in the suffocating silence. She fumbled with her badge at the stairwell door, finally shoving it open. Her shoes pounded against the metal steps as she sprinted down. Every shadow seemed to move, every echo a hunter on her trail. By the time she burst out into the parking lot, her body was shaking violently. Her car was just ahead, her escape within reach. She threw herself inside, locking the doors, starting the engine with trembling hands. Headlights flashed in her rearview mirror. Another car roared to life behind her, the black sedan she'd seen parked next to her boss's. "God, no," she whispered. Clara slammed the gear into reverse and shot backward, tires screeching. She spun out of the lot, heart pounding as the sedan followed close behind. The streets were empty, silent except for the chase. She clutched the wheel so tightly her knuckles ached. Her mind screamed at her to think, to plan, but all she could do was drive. Faster, harder, anywhere away from them. The city lights blurred past. Every turn felt like a dead end. She darted down side streets, weaving through alleys she barely remembered. But the sedan stayed behind, relentless, like a shadow she couldn't shake. Clara's phone buzzed on the seat beside her. She risked a glance, a blocked number. Her throat tightened. Against every instinct, she answered. A man's voice filled the car, calm and cruel. "You should have stayed quiet, Clara. Curiosity is going to get you killed." Her grip faltered, and the car swerved dangerously before she corrected. "What do you want from me?" She shouted, her voice breaking. "What you took. We don't care about you. Give us the files, and maybe you walk away." Clara's stomach dropped. They knew exactly what she had. She stared at the laptop bag, the weight of her choices pressing down like chains. The evidence that could destroy them also held the power to destroy her. "You'll have to catch me first," she whispered, before slamming the phone shut. She veered sharply onto a bridge, the sedan still on her tail. Her chest burned with fear and adrenaline. She thought of her mother, of the promises she made to herself about never being weak, never being silenced. She wouldn't hand it over. Not after everything. As the bridge stretched out ahead, Clara spotted flashing lights in the distance, a police cruiser parked on the shoulder. Relief surged through her, hot and desperate. She sped toward it, honking, flashing her brights. The sedan behind her slowed. Then, without warning, it turned off onto a side road, vanishing into the night. Clara pulled over near the cruiser, her body collapsing against the steering wheel as sobs racked her chest. A uniformed officer approached, knocking gently on her window. "Ma'am, are you all right?" She rolled the window down, tears streaking her cheeks. Words failed her. All she could do was clutch the bag tighter, the proof of corruption heavy in her lap. Somewhere deep inside, Clara knew this wasn't over. The men in the conference room weren't just criminals. They were powerful. They would come for her again. And next time, she might not be so lucky. But for now, in the hollow silence of the night, she allowed herself to breathe. The real fight was only beginning. Marisol had always hated the dark, but tonight, darkness was her only ally. She crouched in the narrow alley, her breath fogging in the cold air, her eyes darting between the shadows that stretched like claws across the wet pavement. Somewhere above, a neon sign buzzed faintly, flickering like it, too, was afraid. Her heart thudded violently against her ribs, and she clutched the flash drive in her pocket as though it were her lifeline. She hadn't planned for this. Not for the way everything unraveled in less than 24 hours. Yesterday, she'd been just another overworked journalist chasing whispers of a story that nobody else believed. A missing girl, a trail of unexplained deaths, and a name that appeared too many times in places it shouldn't have, Vincent Gray. People called him a philanthropist. The truth she uncovered painted him as a predator hiding in plain sight. She had promised herself she would publish what she found, no matter the cost. Now the cost was chasing her. She leaned against the damp brick wall, her lungs screaming for air. She'd lost them for the moment, the men who had cornered her outside her apartment, their faces hidden, their voices low and threatening. She had barely escaped with the flash drive tucked under her coat, but she knew they wouldn't stop until it was back in their hands. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, fingers trembling. A text from her editor. "Where are you? We need to talk. Urgent." She wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her. If Gray had infiltrated her newsroom, and she knew he had connections everywhere, then trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Still, she couldn't fight this alone. Her eyes scanned the alley. A rusty fire escape hung low. With shaky determination she climbed, every creak of the metal a gunshot in her ears. She reached the rooftop, pulling herself over the ledge. The city sprawled beneath her, an endless grid of lights and shadows. She felt small, almost invisible, yet hunted all the same. Marisol crouched low, pulling out the flash drive. She knew she couldn't just hold on to it. She had to get the information out, upload it, email it, anything. But power meant exposure. As soon as she went online, they would trace her. She needed a plan. Her mind replayed the night's events, sharp and unforgiving. The girl's mother begging someone to care. The missing files she'd uncovered in Gray's foundation. The surveillance photos slipped under her door. And the cold voice whispering through the phone earlier, "You should stop digging, Marisol. Curiosity buries people." She almost laughed bitterly. They all thought fear would silence her. They didn't realize fear was the only reason she kept going. A sudden noise snapped her back. Footsteps. She ducked behind an air duct, pressing herself flat. Two men climbed onto the roof from the opposite side, their flashlights sweeping across the concrete. Marisol's pulse roared in her ears. She crawled backward, inch by inch, praying the night swallowed her. The flash drive dug into her palm. Her life reduced to a piece of metal no bigger than her thumb. One of the men muttered, "She has to be close. Boss wants that drive now." Her stomach knotted. She couldn't outrun them forever. She had to choose, risk everything to release the truth, or destroy it and disappear. But disappearing meant the missing girl remained forgotten, Gray remained untouchable, and her own fear won. Her throat tightened with emotion. She thought of her younger brother, who always teased her for being stubborn. "Stubborn will get you killed one day, Mari," he used to say. Maybe he was right. But better stubborn than silent. She pulled out her phone and quickly typed a message, attaching the files from the flash drive. Her hands shook as she sent it, not to her editor, but to 3 colleagues she trusted outside the city. If she didn't make it through the night, at least the story would. The flashlight beam swept dangerously close. She bolted, sprinting across the rooftop. Shouts erupted behind her. Footsteps thundered after her. The ledge loomed ahead, and without hesitation, she leapt to the next building. Her foot slipped on the wet edge, her body dangling for a breathless second before she clawed her way up. Pain seared her palms, but she didn't stop. The men weren't far behind. She scrambled down another fire escape, nearly twisting her ankle on the landing. The city's noise swallowed her cries. She darted into the street, blending with the handful of night wanderers. Every car headlight felt like a spotlight. Every shadow felt like a trap. Her phone buzzed again. A reply. She opened it on the run. Got it. "Stay alive, Mari. We'll publish if you don't." Her eyes blurred with tears. Relief mingled with terror. They had what they needed. Even if she fell tonight, Gray wouldn't escape the truth. But survival wasn't guaranteed. A black SUV screeched around the corner, headlights blinding her. Men spilled out, their movements sharp, rehearsed. She froze, panic pinning her in place. The city around her blurred into nothing but light, sound, and fear. Her legs finally obeyed. She darted into a subway entrance, weaving past startled commuters. She vaulted the turnstile, nearly crashing into a train as its doors slid open. She pushed inside, the crowd swallowing her whole. Her body trembled violently, adrenaline pushing her past exhaustion. The train lurched forward. She collapsed onto a seat, pulling her hood low. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself a single breath of fragile relief. She'd bought herself time, but only just. As the tunnel swallowed the train into darkness, Marisol clutched the flash drive still in her pocket. The files were gone, but she couldn't shake the feeling she was still a target. The men chasing her weren't after just evidence, they were after her silence. She whispered to herself, a promise she refused to break. "You won't bury me." And with that, she braced for whatever came next. The first thing Nadia noticed was the silence. Not the comforting kind, but the hollow stillness that presses on the chest, warning of storms to come. She stood at the edge of the abandoned train yard, the night air thick with the metallic scent of rust and rain-soaked tracks. Her breath clouded in front of her, every exhale a reminder that she was still alive for now. Nadia tightened the strap of the satchel slung across her shoulder. Inside was the evidence she'd been running with for weeks, documents, photos, names, all pointing to the corruption that spread like rot through the city's most powerful institutions. She hadn't meant to become part of this fight. She was a psychology graduate student, not a crusader. But when her mentor, Dr. Rowland, mysteriously disappeared after confiding in her, Nadia had no choice. The files he left behind landed in her hands, and suddenly the weight of truth and danger was hers to carry. The train yard was supposed to be the meeting point. A whistleblower, someone inside the network, had promised to meet her here and take the files to safety. But now, as the wind rattled the broken windows of old cars, doubt curled like smoke in her gut. What if it was a trap? She walked slowly between rusting train cars, her boots crunching on gravel. Every shadow seemed alive. Her mind flickered with memories of Evelyn, Clara, and Marisol, the women whose names had surfaced in whispers throughout her investigation. Each had stumbled into the same web of power and violence, each carrying their own scars. Nadia had pieced their stories together, realizing they weren't accidents. They were patterns. They were proof that silence had been weaponized against women who dared to resist. A voice echoed from the darkness. "Nadia," she spun, her pulse spiking. A figure stepped out, tall, hooded, face hidden. The whistleblower. She wanted to believe it, but fear gripped her. "You have it?" the figure asked, voice low. Nadia hesitated. Her instincts screamed caution. "Prove you're who you say you are." The figure reached into his coat and pulled out a photo. Dr. Rowland, smiling, with a note scribbled across the bottom in his handwriting. "Trust him." Relief cracked through her chest. She loosened her grip on the satchel. But just as she stepped closer, a second sound split the silence, the crunch of boots from the opposite direction. Nadia froze. Floodlights exploded to life, blinding her. Dozens of men surrounded the yard, guns raised, their black uniforms unmistakable. Her stomach dropped. It had been a trap after all. The hooded figure turned toward her, urgency in his voice. "Run!" Chaos erupted. Bullets shredded the silence, sparks flying off metal. Nadia sprinted between train cars, her lungs burning. the satchel pounding against her side. She didn't dare look back. She didn't dare slow down. The whistleblower's shouts mixed with the sharp cracks of gunfire. Nadia darted into an old freight car, slamming the door shut behind her. Darkness swallowed her whole. She crouched low, trembling, clutching the satchel as though it were part of her body. Tears blurred her vision, but her mind raced, sharp and relentless. She couldn't let them take the files. She couldn't let the women's suffering remain buried. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She fumbled it out. A single message glowed on the screen from an unknown number. Upload now. Link secure. Her hand shook as she opened the satchel, pulling out her laptop. The gunfire outside grew closer, boots pounding against metal. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, connecting to the link. She dragged the files into the upload box. The progress bar crawled painfully slow. 30%, 50, 70. Her breath hitched with every second. A sudden bang rattled the freight car door. She screamed, pressing herself against the far wall. The progress bar ticked to 90, 95, 99. The door burst open. A masked man stormed in, weapon raised. Nadia's body froze, terror pinning her. But then a soft ping. Upload complete. Nadia's lips trembled, but a strange calm spread through her chest. She had done it. The truth was out. No matter what happened now, they couldn't erase it. The man grabbed her arm, yanking her to her feet. She fought back, kicking, clawing, her screams echoing through the hollow car. More men poured in, their shadows swallowing her. And then sirens. Red and blue lights lit up the train yard, washing the darkness in color. Police cars swarmed the scene, sirens screaming louder than her heartbeat. The masked men scattered, some firing as they fled. In the chaos, Nadia dropped to her knees, clutching the laptop, sobbing as relief and terror collided inside her. A female officer rushed toward her, shielding her as bullets cracked overhead. "You're safe now," the officer shouted, though Nadia knew safety was fragile, temporary, because the truth was bigger than her, bigger than Evelyn, Clara, or Marisol. It was a story of how power devoured everything it touched, and how women like them, like her, refused to be silent, even when it cost them everything. As dawn broke over the city, Nadia sat in the back of an ambulance, her clothes torn, her face streaked with dirt and tears. She stared at the rising sun, exhausted but unbroken. The files were out. The world would know. She whispered softly, more to herself than anyone else, "They can bury us all." And somewhere, she hoped Evelyn, Clara, and Marisol would hear her. The nightmare wasn't over. But the truth had been unleashed, and truth has a way of surviving. If this story gripped you, don't forget to subscribe, share, and comment your thoughts below. Your support helps bring more emotional, suspenseful stories to life.